Hello there. Welcome to today's edition of Rooster Reports. Before I get on with today's topic, my thanks to the poster on Facebook who commented on yesterday's rant, and I quote, "Go grab a dozen Isan sausages and plug them up your leaky bunghole." Yeah. Thanks for that. Very constructive. Today I want to talk about violence in schools. Violence against children. Something that's very prevalent in Thai schools and also very prevalent in Thai domestic settings as well, if reports I read are to be believed. I've actually done many stories over the last 7 years concerning violence in schools, in particular from teachers against children, and it's something that concerns me greatly. There was a story today, which you'll be able to read on ASEAN Now, in which several parents in Samut Prakan went to the Thai media, who contacted them, and then a couple of Bohan or 5th grade of primary school boys showed them what essentially were wounds to their backside inflicted by a teacher called Boss, who was unhappy with their sweeping up and such like. In fact, the teacher counted up, telling that he told the children to go and get the cane, which was an 80 centimetre long piece of wood wrapped in plastic tape. He counted up and saying the number of times he counted would be the number of times they'd be hit. The parents were understandably very annoyed at what they saw as something which was over the top. The reporters went to the school, and of course the director says, "What? I'm unavailable. It's nothing. Don't put it in the news." Standard stuff. The teacher concerned actually admitted everything. It just shows you the brazen nature of what goes on. And the Education Authority, of course, are setting up a committee of inquiry. It's following the standard pattern. These kind of stories actually sicken me, and I want to explain a little bit about my own background and why I think these things happen in this country, and what could be done to get them to be stopped. I was brought up in schools in England, in London, in the 1960s and 1970s. There was very little violence, though I do remember a few occasions. We had the cane in secondary school. I mean, old Rooster was always a goody two-shoes. I used to sneak around and do my smoking outside the school, so I was never actually caught. But yeah, there was very little violence in the schools. There was very little violence in my family, although I do remember every single incident, albeit a small number, that occurred in my life. When I came to Thailand in the 1980s, I was a journalist, but I didn't want to get a job in a very badly paying sphere, so I became a teacher, and for 8 years I taught Japanese kids door to door in the Sukhumvit area. Then I became a teacher at an international school in Bang Na for several years, and then I was the head of department at the international school. I've also raised 4 children with 2 different wives, and 2 have obviously grown up, and 2 are with me here in where I live in Bangkok now, and they're 10 and 6. The idea that I would hit them to teach them right from wrong is completely and utterly absurd to me. And this was actually true throughout my teaching career. I would never, ever lay a hand on a student. for me, the whole idea that anybody would do that shows that they've lost authority, and shows that they have no respect. Yeah, kids mess up from time to time. Of course they do. Kids need sanctions, yeah, but they don't need to be assaulted. They need to be nurtured, and they need to be taught that their behaviour, should be good, but not whacked. I remember quite clearly one of the international schools where I worked, and there was virtually no incidents of assault of students at the schools where I worked. But one guy once, a science teacher, once laid his hands on a pupil like this and gave him a shake. He was very quickly shown the door, incidentally becoming a headmaster elsewhere in Asia. It's the usual case that really bad teachers end up becoming headmasters, unfortunately. In Thai schools, though, it clearly is a different matter, and I think one of the big problems stems actually from, of course it stems from the bad teacher training and bad culture in schools, but it also comes from the Thai parents themselves, and as well from people who make comments online who are clearly expatriates. They went to school during a time when assault of students was just commonplace, and in most cases just a little bit before the former Thai Premier Yingluck Shinawatra tried to outlaw the use of capital punishment in schools. So that was about a dozen years ago when she did that. It clearly hasn't actually worked, because it's still going on. So there's this mindset which exists not just within schools but within families, that children are somehow your property, your chattel, and that you can do with them as you wish. I just find that absolutely appalling. So many Thai parents went through a phase in their lives, in their school days, when they didn't see much wrong with, being whacked with a ruler or whacked with a cane or a slipper or whatever they use. You also see comments from people online which go along the lines of, a good thrashing never hurt me, put me on the straight and narrow, you can't mollycoddle children, that sort of thing. But haven't we moved on from sort of the days of the Victorian days and the days of the workhouse? I really hope we have. I think the violence has to stop, and I think parents need to step up to the plate and not just make a fuss when violence is over the top, which it clearly was in the case that there was today, but step up to any form of violence perpetrated by teachers against children in school. They also need to step up and stop whacking their kids at home for ridiculous and minor misdemeanors. Until the parents themselves say no, then I can only see it going on, and I can only see teachers continuing and education authorities sort of turning a blind eye unless the media get really involved in really serious cases. To me, all the cases are deadly serious, and all the cases need to be investigated. And this violence against children in schools has to stop now. Thank you for listening, and catch you tomorrow.